You are about to enter the Shockwaves Skullsessions podcast on ShockwaveSkullsessions.com. And now your host, Bob Nalbandian.
So how you doing, man? Everything good?
Good. Everything boring.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
nothing.
Well, at least you got your Harley, right? You can take your Harley out here and there.
Having it painted right now, so I don't even have my bike.
And you got such beautiful weather now, too. It's all sunny now.
And I actually took it to the painter in November, so hopefully I'm going to get it back soon.
All right. Well, hopefully, man. Hopefully. Well, cool, dude. Let's talk a little bit about the Toxic Vault. Of course, we got the mighty Steve Souza, Zetro, the mighty Zetro, on this episode. And your Toxic Vault, man, I love that podcast, not just because you featured me on it, of course, but I've been digging it for a while. Dude, I love the background setup you have on it. Just such a cool setup. Your old vault there, the metal vault. Talk a little bit about how that. I know you've got your producer Wayne, who we were going to try to get on here. He is it just you guys just put together?
He does all the back scenes. He wants me to do all this stuff. When you said we'll get you both on, I was like, if we get Wayne, I'll buy everybody lunch. You kidding me? So I kind of knew that. Actually, this was an idea from the Creature Feature host, Vincent Van Dahl, who does the Creature Features. And he said, I was a guest a few times on the show, and I do the theme song for the show. And he said to me, he goes, you need to do your own webcast. I go, podcast? He's on, no, webcast. He's on where you go, and people can actually see you. So he gave me a lot of the set. Although all the toys and all that stuff I built, the toys now are all gifts from fans. Now, at first they were my toys that were on the set, but now they're all gifts from fans because I interact with them. I have a PO box. They send me letters. I do letters episodes. I do episodes where I talk about their comments. So I make them a part of the show. So a lot of the fans know that I'm a huge horror fan, and they send me horror toys and stuff. And I said, if you send it, I'll find somewhere on the set to put it. I'll move them in and out from time to time. But, I pretty much do that, and they have been. So he gave me the idea to do it. And then I thought, I didn't even know what to do at first. I was like, I'll review movies. I'll talk about this. I'll do this. And then I kind of found that our niche on the show is doing the interviews with the old school metal guys and stuff. I mean, those are the interviews that are going over well. The guys from Forbidden, and the guys from Death Angel, and the guys from Testament, you know what I mean? And I get those guys in, and anybody else. It seems like those are the meat and potatoes of it. And when I started doing it, because I don't have any time limit on it, I kind of take each individual person and start from the beginning. Like, what made you this? What at 5 or 6 years old, or 10 or 12 turned you as? Were your parents hippies? Were they into this? Were you watching cartoons? Were you into horror movies? Did you always like whatever it was? I always try to start and grow through a chronological timeline to give fans a better perspective of, when or how this all came about. I spent actually 8 hours with Craig LaCicero from Forbidden, and we talked all beginning to now with his new act, Dress the Dead. But I've done that with so many other artists, and a lot of what I do is I try to find out, how did you become this? You know what I mean? We're not like, let's talk about your first record. Let's talk about your first kiss. Let's talk about the first time you played at the 8th grade talent show. You know what I mean? What made who you are now and how you got it. So a lot of that is what I do, but like I go live on it every once in a while, and I'll take comments. I'll have anybody on. I had a fireman on. I had you on. I have people that do certain products. I have toy makers, whoever. If it's interesting or it's pop culture-ish, or has some merit, I'll talk to it. I'll bring him in and see what's up.
I love that. And I love the fact you do it live in your studio or in your vault, so to speak. And, the new technology is great with obviously Zoom, and we're using StreamYard. And I see we're having a little bit of audio issues here, but, you always get that. But doing it live in the studio and being, in the Bay Area and growing up there and being a part of that scene and having so many of the great bands from that area, you could just get them in live in the studio. It works so much better for you. I think.
I feel that there's so many stories to tell from different angles. I mean, I'll just take Forbidden It, for instance. There's 5 or 6 different stories there, depending on who you talk to. You know what I mean? So it's all interesting and relevant. I could talk to Craig or Matt or Glenn or Steve Smythe or Bo Staff or Mark Hernandez. It doesn't matter who was ever there. They have their own take on how it went down, and I find that it never gets boring when I bring those even if it's the same band, they've got their own take on how they became out of it. So I kind of like that. I always liked when I watch like a movie, a documentary or something, and they tell you the actors and what they did before or what they did after and how they got in this, and when they died and what they did up till they're dead. Just I'm interested in that kind of stuff, and I try to ask those questions.
I love it. You get the full spectrum. And as you say, you've got so many different people. And I love when you talk about reviews and stuff, and you'll even go through some of the old Exodus catalog and different movies and different kind of stuff. It's exciting.
I'll do a band that I like, and I'll just talk about how they influenced me. And then I'll do obviously the records that I did in unison, and I'll talk about those and what it was like to record them and what was going through our heads at that time, you know what I mean? And what we were thinking as, going into the project or going into this or coming off of this and going into this and then coming out of it. Because a lot of people, they want to know what were you guys thinking? What was going on when you wrote this record? Why did you write it like that? You know what I mean? And I try to fill those gaps in.
And you keep it pretty consistent too. You do it pretty much weekly, right? The podcast. Yeah.
Don't have a guest or something. I'll go live and I'll just take comments, because Exodus has a new record that'll be out in the summertime, Persona Non Grata, and people want to talk about it, although I there's not much I can say. I mean, I'm on a gag order pretty much. So I mean, everybody knows it's coming out this summer and they know the title, but I can't tell you how many songs. I can't tell you. I can't give you a comparison of what this album sounds like to another. We're kind of all under like, shut up.
Oh, that squashes all my questions. All right, Zetro, nice talking to you, man. I'll see you later.
Exactly. People go, what's about the new? I go, okay. You'll hear it as it comes out. Is there going to be a single released? Yeah, probably. Do you have a release date? No. What's the album cover look like? Haven't seen it, so I don't know.
I don't know nothing about it.
Is there any covers on the album? Can't tell you that, but what I'll tell you is everybody knows Japanese albums always have to have extra tracks because they're more expensive. So that's as far as I'll go with that. Okay. So use your own imagination, but I mean, there's a lot that I can't say, but again, it's fun kind of toying with it a little bit, so makes it up.
It's funny because I was
advantageous. Well, oh God, he's being so secretive about it, but we all know it's done and it's out there, so.
Well, builds the suspense, man. I mean, a lot of people are looking forward to it, and I can't wait, man. So, it's funny because I was just talking to somebody, and we're talking about the documentary I did, the Bay Area Godfathers. We got part 2 coming out in March, and he was kind of saying, man, there's so much attention now on the the thrash bands and all these bands, and it's like because they're still relevant today. I mean, I'm thinking about all the bands, from the 80s. If you think about you know, when the labels signed a lot of these bands, and Exodus and Metallica and the bands from San Francisco and New York and LA were coming out, it was mostly a lot of the, you know, that the hair metal bands got the big deals and all that. And everyone thought that was going to be the big bands with the longevity. And it's funny seeing how, you know, of course, all the bands go through the drama, you know, that, you know, of course, Metallica did, Exodus did, as you know, through the 90s particularly, and went through a little bit of changes. But it seems like since the new millennium, you know, it's really been the thrash bands, you know. I mean, you look at Exodus, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Overkill, Testament, Death Angel. You guys have put out some of your best albums. Absolutely. And it seems that you guys are almost bigger than you were in the 80s. And I'll include Armored Saint and Metal Church and bands like that as well. All the other bands went through, you know, the Motleys, Great White, all you know, Rat, whatever, Dawkins. They've gone through so much drama. Quiet Riot. There might be one member left, or no members left, or two bands with the same name, and it's just a fucking mess. And they're not putting out, you know, they're reissuing best of albums and doing re-recording albums, and you know, they're not putting out great, consistent new music. And you guys, you know, the bands I mentioned, all these thrash bands, like I said, putting out brand new music, still super relevant. And, you know, just why do you think that is? What kind of got, I mean, it's just so much more integrity with you guys.
It's true. Wayne, if you go and look at the last, well, any of the records, I thought For All Kings by Anthrax was great.
Absolutely.
Loved worship music. I thought Dystopia by Megadeth was fucking awesome. Yeah. I thought, and even because I can't say this because I wrote lyrics on them, but the last 4 Testament records were awesome. Death Angel record got nominated for a fucking Grammy.
Yeah.
Who in our genre is putting out shit? Nobody. And like I said, the wave of hair metal bands and those type of bands, power metal bands from the 80s, there's not a group of them like our subgenre group that are all being solid and putting out new music that people are going, whoa, did you hear the new da-da-da-da-da? Oh, yeah, I remember them in the 80s. No, dude, they got a new album out. Sounds fucking great. That really isn't holding a candle to like the, I guess, the Great Whites and the Slaughters, a band that ruled at one point in time, you know, and we always kind of play to their videos. But, you know, it's funny. Tom Araya told me one thing a long ago. He said, Zetro, just stay heavy and everything else will fall into place. And he's right, because all of the heavy bands are still like relevant. You know, look at who's the biggest band in the world? They're a thrash band. If you really look at it from the beginning, the biggest band in the world is a thrash band.
Yeah. And you would have never known, you know, 30, 40 years ago. I mean,
back then, in 1985, as I remember, because I'm 21 years old, I just finished the Legacy demo. I had a guy, it's a very good friend of mine, and I remember the conversation fucking vividly. And he said, do you ever think Metallica will ever have a bit like Metallica will ever have a #1 record? And I said, of course I do. And he was trying to rip me apart going, it'll never happen. And I said, I'm going to tell you something. And this is 1985. As society gets heavier, so will the music. And look, here we are, 35, 36 years later. And who's the biggest band? Not just the biggest thrash band in the world, the biggest rock fucking band in the world.
You know, it's funny because there was what do you kind of see the future of thrash metal for new bands? You know, you had that new wave of thrash metal bands that came out, you know, throughout the 2000s, really. I mean, Power Trip were one of my favorites. Of course, it was such a shame when Riley passed away, but you know, Havoc, you had Municipal Waste, you know, Ex Mortis, Warbringer, you know, Holy Grail, Fuel by Fire, so many bands. You know, there wasn't really, you know, they obviously toured a lot. You know, that was their main thing. They had a lot of, you know, support from, you know, bands like Exodus and of course Megadeth and a lot of the, you know, godfathers of thrash, so to speak. But it's been very difficult for them without the outlets that you guys had back, with the Headbangers Ball and all that kind of stuff, and with record sales. Do you see what do you see with the future of young thrash metal?
Definitely harder to make it these days, although it's great. I mean, my sons, the Mighty
Yes.
Patriot, they're another one that is, and these guys have jobs, and to go out, they'd have to go out in a van, and it's just a different world now. When we came up and we came out, we had to do that too, but there was always, it seemed like a light at the end of the tunnel. First record was like you'd be in a van. As you moved up towards, you get into a bus, and then hotels, and then as you grew. And we were at a point in time when we were the forefathers of a sound. So when you're the innovators of a sound, you're kind of revered a little bit. You're always considered like that legendary band because they were, whoa, these guys are one of the first to ever do it. For newer bands, especially in metal, there's so many mediums to listen to things and to see videos. There's a lot of competition. So, a lot of, it seems like, because they're like thinking about the initial thrash bands, the OGs, all the OGs are still shit. So people haven't kind of like went to the next tier looking for them as their new heroes yet, because we're still relevant. You know what I mean? I don't see, like, a new wave of British heavy metal, there's not many bands that you see, newer bands that sound like Saxon or Judas Priest or Iron Maiden. You know what I mean? It's like those were the bands that did that. But with thrash, we do see that. Like you said, we do see bands like Municipal Waste and Havoc and Hatred and bands that are coming out, and Ex Mortis and bands like that, and Warbringer, and I love it, and it inspires me because it shows me that we still have so many more, so much more history that's going to be following us when it's time for us to pass the torch. But that's not happening anytime soon. I'm 68. I got a long way to go.
Right on. Yeah, man, it is great. Hopefully these bands will continue. I actually saw Hatred open for a Power Trip at San Jose at the Ritz, and great show, man. Great band. And you got both your sons, Nicholas and Cody, in that band, right? And you just had Cody on the Toxic Vault.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They're doing good.
All right.
Recording their 4th album.
Very cool. Now you had apart from Exodus, as a lot of people know, you had a lot of different side projects. Of course, you mentioned Hatred that you spent some time with, and of course, Dublin Death Patrol. I think you mostly did stuff in Europe with that band, right? I know you did some big festivals, and of course, the original singer for Legacy.
Festivals over.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we did some of that in the Bay Area. Didn't do too much touring. We did, like you said, some European stuff. There was kind of like just Chuck and I, actually, it was Willie Lang's idea. And he came to us and said, we want to put this band together with just these guys that grew up in Dublin that played music, but not necessarily got to do it on the level that some of us got to play on. So that's where that came out of. And then I did another project with pretty much all the guys from Strapping Young Lad except Devin Townsend and Glenn Alvalize. It was called Take It. We never toured on that, but we did a record called Sovereign. A really, really record. So, and I do an AC/DC tribute band.
I saw that.
I keep my hands busy in a lot of things, Bob. Just so.
Yeah, very cool AC/DC tribute band with Tom Hunting.
Fun. Just got to keep myself busy.
Yeah. What did happen with that tenant? I know you obviously had Gene Hoglan and go ahead. Yeah.
Byron Stroud, Jed Simon, which wrote all the music and lyrics. And so Jed sang on the project first, and Century Media was like, you should probably go find a singer. And I wasn't in Exodus at the time, and I was doing Dublin Death Patrol and just kind of gingerly on a couple of projects. And they got a hold of me and said, hey, man, you want to do this? I said, yeah, it'd be like some fun. So he came to California, and we did the record, but we never got to play a concert from it.
Yeah, that's a shame, man.
Love to someday.
Right on.
One of those projects.
Yeah.
No.
We'll talk about, I mean, some of those early Exodus tours. I saw the band several times with you, with Paul Bailoff. I saw the great show with Venom Slayer and Exodus at the Hollywood Palladium. Saw the band several times at Fender's Ballroom and a few other places with both you and Paul singing, and saw a few times with Rob Dukes as well. And think about Exodus, as you always know, it's just going to be a killer fucking show. It's always consistent, always the ultimate thrash, event. And you've toured with so many different bands, from big to smaller, thrash metal bills. What was particularly in Europe? You did a lot of the big festivals, but you did quite a few package shows here in the States with a lot of different bands. What were some of your favorite tours that you had done in the past?
Celtic and Anthrax was a lot of fun. Obviously, Headbangers Ball in '89 because of the exposure that tour got. That was a lot of fun. A lot of the festivals in Europe are fun because that's when you see your friends. When you may not see anybody for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden they'll be on 3 or 4 festivals with you, and you hang out backstage and stuff. So I like that. But I mean, if you were to count festivals and touring, there's probably not a band that we have not played with or been on a bill with at some point. You know what I mean? So some festivals we play with Aerosmith, they're the headliner.
Wow.
Some festivals we played with Def Leppard, they're the headliner. We played with Rock, we played with Alice in Chains, we played with Metallica, we played with everybody I could think of, Iron Maiden, Ghost, everybody.
Wow, cool.
From anybody from UFO to Play and Pat Travers. I mean, we played on festivals with everybody before. So Emperor, Behemoth. I mean, we've gone from one spectrum to the other. So it's not really, I think we've never, well, that'll never happen now. Never on a festival with Van Halen. And we have never been on a festival with AC/DC. But I'd have to say we played on a festival with everybody. I mean, no, we've been on tour with everybody from Maggot at the Slay. I mean, everybody. Yeah. So
I was going to ask you, how was it working with Chris Tangarini?
That was cool. And I think we were big. He passed away recently.
I know.
The last couple of years, actually. Sick. But he did some of our favorite records. I mean, he did Thunder and Lightning by Thin Lizzy. He did Renegade. He did Painkiller. He did Sad Wings of Destiny.
Painkiller.
He did he worked with Concrete Blonde, or he worked with Missing Persons. He did a lot of different other stuff. That was cool working with him. We flew to London and recorded in Battery Studios, which is everybody from Pink Floyd to Iron Maiden's recorded Battery Studios. So it was neat for us. So it was cool. The people we've gotten to work with over the years and the things that these eyes have seen is really kind of cool, when it comes down to thinking about the whole career of it all, about from producers to bands we've toured. I mean, we've toured with bands that were bigger than us and smaller than us. Then they got bigger than us, and now they aren't even relevant anymore, and we're still around. So it's kind of funny how, full circle has come around, kind of.
So obviously we can't talk about the new record yet, but you do plan, I mean, everything's kind of up in the air now with the COVID and all that, but do you have any tentative plans for this coming summer or any dates? I know festivals in Europe, some festivals are still scheduling stuff. Is there anything on the schedule for Exodus for perhaps the summer?
We have Alcatraz Festival to play. We have we're actually doing Aftershock in
that's right,
Sacramento next October. And so those are going on. They're all planning that the world is going to be inoculated by June or July, and the second half of the year is going to be a different situation. So a lot of people are booking that right now, but I would say we probably go totally strong. I mean, bang, 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 hit the States and go until 2022.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I don't know how this is going to work out. I'll just ask you one last question. Going back to we talked about with how these thrash bands have been so consistent. Is a lot of, because I know back in obviously in the 80s and the 90s when you were on Capitol, all these big thrash bands and new wave of British heavy metal bands were on major labels, and I think all of them to a sense had that pressure of the major label to write those hit songs. You got to do this, got to have this producer, you got to have a cover song, got to have a co-songwriter. There was a lot of pressure, but I mean, the good thing about these days, people talk about, the labels. Obviously, the labels had the support. They gave you tour support. You had money. You could, travel in a nice bus and whatnot. But today, it seems, like I said, bands like, yourself, Testament, Anthrax, Megadeth, seem stronger than ever. And it seems like you guys got no pressure. So you can just kind of do what you want to do musically. You don't have any pressure to write a hit song or a radio hit. And it seems like it just come back to form, just back to the old school, sound of what you guys started back in the early 80s. Is that somewhat true? Do you kind of feel that?
The label no longer depicts on what we do, because before it was like we needed their tour support to make it all happen. Now we make our money on going on the road from show pays and merchandise. We never used to make money on the road before. The record sale whole idea was to go in debt on the road, so you sell a ton of records and it would pay that back. Now the whole idea is used as the catalyst and go out on the road and make show pay and money off of merchandise and keep your crew sensible, to whereas you not have a guy doing 100 things, you got 100 guys doing things you don't need to be. Spend your money wisely and you can make money. If we spent money wisely back in the day, we'd all probably be millionaires now. But like that trip you talked, going to Tangrides, that trip to England to record that record cost us $275,000 to go do that. Who the hell would spend that on a record now? I mean, just outrageously crazy. So we've learned how to make money. And so we manipulate the system. Iron Maiden will put a record out and sell 100,000 copies nowadays because people don't really buy records. But they'll go out and they'll sell out every stadium possible.
True, yeah.
And everybody there will have an Iron Maiden shirt. And that's what it's for. That's what matters.
Absolutely. Maiden. I mean, I think with the genre
That's how we do it now, Bob.
of metal, you could, still do that, because metal was always a live thing. And, and Maiden, to be honest, they never sold a ton of records, even in their heyday. I mean, they go platinum and whatnot, but when you're talking about bands like, Motley Crue or Poison or whatever that were selling 5-6 platinum, Maiden never went that far, but they would always sell out 2-3 times as many people at their venues, at their live shows. So absolutely true. And I think that stands true for a lot of.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Zetro, I apologize for all the technical difficulties. Let's go ahead and end here and talk about how people could, obviously you got your YouTube channel, Zetro's Toxic Vault. And what else? We got the new Exodus album. What else could you tell us and how people could get in touch with you?
Well, just go to YouTube. Usually every Wednesday, I put a new episode up of Zetro's Toxic Vault. If I don't do an interview or something, I'll probably go live. But you can get it on YouTube. Just search it. I'm on Instagram at Zetrodus, and obviously Exodus Band Official on Facebook and on Instagram. You can find out what we're doing, where our dates are, and where to get merchandise if you're looking for that kind of stuff.
All right. Well, Zetro, I appreciate it, man. We will get this posted next week. hopefully the sound will be okay. I'm hoping that this is just occurring from my computer, but we will get this going, and I appreciate everything you do, and definitely check out Zetro's Toxic Vault, and check out the new Exodus album when it comes out. Hopefully the summer we'll get it out. Persona Grata, what is it? A Persona Grata? Persona non grata, right? So, well, let's do it. All right. I appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend.
All right, Zetro, you take care, man.